Hey guys, today we are driving a 2020 Acura MDX. I'm actually at the launch event for the 2022 MDX, and I thought it would be interesting to compare Acura's last generation products to what they're making right now. You've already seen the new MDX review on this channel, and just see how far Acura has come in one generation. We still have the same 3.5 liter, 290 horsepower V6. It sounds great. We have a 9-speed automatic transmission instead of the new 10-speed. And then everything else. Just look at this cabin. This is so dated. This infotainment, these dual screens, this turn dial selector for the Apple CarPlay screen. I mean, this is just kind of a mess. It's so funny. I will say, though, driving this MDX has always been a pleasure, and I have enjoyed it dynamically compared to a lot of the competition, even though it's lower on tech and a much simpler, old-school vehicle. You still get a decent third row in this older MDX. It looks reasonably attractive, but again, I mean, this is kind of design language and styling that goes back about 10 years, at least as far as I'm concerned with Acura. So it's definitely about time that Acura has updated the MDX, especially to keep it in line with their new RDX and TLX. Here in the second row, we've got quite a bit of space, nice materials, nice levels of luxury. You can easily fold these seats back, and you can see in the third row, it actually works back there. You could fit a life-size human. I'm not going to get back there, but you know, kids, even an adult, I think would be reasonably comfortable in the third row, which can't necessarily be said for a lot of other vehicles in this class. We've got some storage, USB ports down there, this neat little center area, rear climate control, window shades. A lot of similarities in the back seat actually between the new MDX and this older one. You can even remove the center section in the new 2022. I don't believe this one comes out though. All right, let's take this for a drive and see what it's like on the road. Of course, there are lots of obvious differences and changes. This has analog gauges instead of the new digital layout. We don't have the new touchpad system. We have a similar shifter. You do have a dynamic mode button instead of the dynamic mode selector. Lots of open pore wood. I mean, this is a nice place to be, but in a new vehicle in this era, it's just not competitive in the segment. We do have super handling all-wheel drive today, which is always a pleasure in the snow. As long as we don't mow down any cones, we can get out of here safely. Oh yes. From a driving perspective, this feels quite good actually. Maybe not as lively or sporty as the new one. The V6 is actually a little bit louder in this car, and I think sounds better. So that's kind of a welcome surprise. Let's see how this transmission reacts. We'll put it into sport mode for whatever that's worth. Oh, really sluggish downshifts. Handling is a different story though. We'll get around some corners here, but I can immediately feel that this 2020 MDX doesn't have as sporting cornering intentions as the new one. The new MDX has double wishbone front suspension, multi-link rear, and you really feel it in the dynamic abilities of that new car. This also seems a little bit louder inside. NVH is a little bit higher from what I can tell. Let's do a brake test and a 0 to 60 here. Pretty good. And off the line. This 9-speed isn't a bad transmission. Let's see how it handles a corner here. There's a really solid feel to this 2020 MDX. It still feels kind of Honda-like, which isn't a bad thing. But you get that feeling in a lot of the switchgear, the steering, the driving dynamics. This still feels like just a nicer Honda product. Maybe a slightly nicer Honda Pilot or larger Passport. I love the way this 3.5 V6 sounds. VTEC kicks in and it just makes me happy. Ride quality is very well controlled, really nice over this pretty rough, bumpy back road section. Let's see what the sound system is like. For reference, the ELS premium audio in the new MDX is probably the best sound system I've ever heard in a car. This is good, but it's pretty average, honestly, for the class. I think Volvo would easily have this beat, and maybe even Audi. Acura always has been known for their nice, high-quality audio systems, and this is a good overall sound system. But you compare it to the new one, and there is just no comparison. The difference is enormous. Alright, hopefully that gives you guys a pretty good idea. Just driving and using this MDX for a few minutes, I can immediately say that navigating through Apple CarPlay is a lot easier with this scroll knob. I'm not a big fan of how the touchpad interacts with Apple CarPlay. I wish they could translate that system in the new MDX to Apple CarPlay like it works in the rest of the infotainment. And I do like the general simplicity of the layout. Again, if you're looking for a newer luxury vehicle and you can snap one of these up and you don't want all the new complicated tech or all the new features, this is still a pretty solid option. And even as a used buy, I love the way this older MDX drives. It's just so smooth, it's so comfortable, it feels incredibly well built and refined. Yes, you don't get all the sexy new stuff from the new MDX. And if you're going to be buying one of these as opposed to a new one, I would just hold out and wait for a new one. But if you can get a good used deal on an older MDX, it's not a bad purchase. This 9-speed is very smooth. Definitely not as sporty as the new 10, but as a luxury option, it works quite well. Not a lot of driver feedback, virtually no steering feel around these corners. Ride quality is nicely damped, but again, we're in a luxury crossover. That's what you would expect. Not very exciting to drive, though. I think the Lexus RX was a little bit more enjoyable on a back road. super handling all-wheel drive does a great job in the snow, though. It's always been a great part about Acura products. I still would recommend winter tires, however. Super handling all-wheel drive only does a good job on throttle. Off throttle, you get quite a bit of understeer, especially in these older systems. The newer car has dialed quite a bit of that out, which is nice. Let's throw us into sport mode, see if that does anything with the transmission. Take it around one more corner here, put it into sport mode for whatever it's worth. It's a good amount of mechanical grip. And when you're really pushing it, super handling all-wheel drive does pull you out of a corner beautifully. You get a little bit of rotation as power is sent to the rear axle. I think in the newer vehicle, you don't have to push it as hard to get the really enjoyable driving dynamics, whereas this, you might have to hustle a little bit quicker around a corner to really feel that super handling all-wheel drive happen and kick in. Acura's done such a nice job updating their styling, their interior, their infotainments, the driving dynamics. I mean, they have virtually improved every single aspect of their vehicles in all of their modern lineup. The new offerings in the RDX, in the TLX, and the new 2022 MDX are just, I think, very close to class leading, if not class leading, in their segment. It kind of depends on, your preferences and what you value in a vehicle. I know that a lot of people do love the German offerings just because there's brand name association there, but Acura is really killing it in their new vehicles, and I think it's definitely worth a look if you're shopping in this segment. At least looking at the new MDX and any of their other vehicles if you're looking for a luxury sedan or crossover in the RDX or the TLX. And they haven't gone through and changed absolutely everything on the new MDX. There is some older switchgear throughout this cabin. You can see here to the left, on the window switches and the mirror controls, a lot of that is pretty much the same. You've got similar door handles, the lane keep assist, and all the controls down here are very similar. And also the controls for the second row to tilt the second row forward so you can get access to the third row. That's pretty much the same in the new MDX. So not everything is changed, but I think they've kept what works and what is good while improving the overall feeling and experience behind the wheel. And the new car is just on a completely different level. And it's amazing to see a manufacturer make such a quantum leap from one generation to the next. They've really brought their lineup into the modern era, and I think they've done a really good job of executing the infotainment, the driving dynamics, and just the overall feel of getting behind the wheel of some of their new products. So, good job on Acura, well done. That'll wrap up this video on the older MDX, probably the last drive we'll get in one. I think the highs here are great driving experience, or a really nice, solid vehicle. But, of course, low on tech, low on features, and you definitely feel like you're in something that's quite a bit older than a lot of the modern offerings. Let's park this just for fun next to the new MDX and just kind of compare really quickly. This even looks like a more boxy, lifted SUV, whereas the new MDX has this really sleek rear haunch from the C-pillar back. It looks like such a more modern and more stylish vehicle. Of course, this A-spec is pretty sharp too. Alright guys, well that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. We'll see you guys later.